A visionary, a label given to those who can lead development or create something that either anticipates future trends or changes the gaming world and how other developers will approach it in the future. Or they are unyielding in their approach and creative vision within long-term projects. And within the gaming industry, there are many different people who we can give this title to. From the most well-known, Hideo Kojima and his evolution in game presentation, from being just games to more cinematic experiences, which can deliver engaging and thought-provoking stories, while also cementing the stealth genre and giving it a gold standard every game would have to live up to Vince Zampella, a man fundamental in the shaping and redefining of modern shooters and online multiplayer. Not just once, with him doing it with Infinity Ward making Call of Duty, but also years later at Respawn for Apex, and you could argue with DICE and Battlefield. Rest in peace to that legend. Satoru Iwata and his vision of making gaming for everyone, with him mainly being responsible for the direction Nintendo went in the Wii and DS era, and I don't think I have to tell you how successful they were as products. And there are so many people who have changed and redefined the gaming industry in ways that I could talk about for hours, and they have shaped every single aspect of this hobby, from how consoles are made, how game design is approached, how writing is approached, to what even a game is redefined and always challenged by these people that we label as visionaries. But today we're going to focus on one man, and we're going to begin kind of his journey. I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite visionaries in all of gaming, a man that I absolutely adore every project that he has been attached to. A man who can show that true artistic vision and creativity can lead to some genuine pieces of art being made. Games that aren't made for profit, that aren't made to chase trends. They are made to tell a story and push what games can be. Of course, I'm talking about my favorite guy in gaming. The one, the only, Sam Lake.
Thank you.
Sam Lake, now the creative director of Remedy Entertainment, and his story is fascinating, and it is extremely important to understand his story in relation to every game that he has been attached to. Sam Lake would either be the lead main writer for most of Remedy's biggest games, or he himself was the lead creative / director for these games. And the story of Sam Lake and his game industry life doesn't start with what I would say is probably the most important game that he would write for him, but actually the very first game Remedy would make as a company, that being Death Rally, a combat racing game which Sam was brought in to write dialogue for, as he was a longtime friend with Petri. Oh, that's a name. Finnish name, I don't know. They are Finnish, so they are, like all Finnish people, extremely odd. It's just how it is. Petri was basically the main lead at the studio at the time, and Sam Lake would start as a writer under him. And after the first project, being Death Rally, was somewhat successful, Remedy started pitching ideas to their publisher / partner studio at the time, Apogee Software, or as they're known today, kind of 3D Realms. It's a long story, but basically Apogee turned into 3D Realms at some point, but they also merged with other companies and sort of split. It's weird. But they pitched 3 games to Scott Miller, the head of Apogee at the time. One, a space flight simulator game akin to Descent Free Space. Another was another racing game, which didn't really catch Miller's eye and he thought it was not as interesting. But one did. An isometric shooter called Dark Justice. Honestly, that is such a 12-year-old name to give to a game. Dark Justice. Fucking like child shit. And Miller did like the game's premise, but he had some conditions that Remedy would have to meet for him to fully fund and help make the game as a publisher. What were these 3 key aspects? Well, this is what they were. The game needed a strong central character akin to 3D Realms' own Duke Nukem, who was one of the biggest characters in gaming at the time. Good 3D graphics, not the fake 3D like Doom style, but actual proper 3D graphics, because 3D graphics at the time were still pretty new, and a better name. Simple enough. These are 3 things that Remedy should definitely chase. A good central character and story, graphics that push the boundaries and make the game more technologically advanced, and a better name because Dark Justice is pretty shit. So what did this game become? Well, of course, it became Max Payne. So to outline, for Max Payne, Petrie was the main creative lead for the game, kind of. He was the main guy for doing all the gameplay stuff, the design and everything, and Sam Lake would act as the game's main writer, but he also did do some level design work as well. It's really hard to figure out what these guys actually did because Remedy was such a small studio at the time that they kind of just did everything. But from what I gather, Petrie basically did all of the gameplay stuff, all the game systems, shooting, the pacing of the game, level designs, transitions, all that shit, the like brunt work. And Sam Lake did the writing. He did all of the story. He decided what characters were probably going to be killed in which levels. He was writing fully for this game. He can be established as the main writer. And famously as well, Sam Lake also will model for the titular role of Max Payne because they couldn't afford to actually get actors in to be the model for Max. This was mainly due to budget constraints. Despite being under a bigger publisher in Apogee, game development in the time, especially early 2000s, were made on razor thin margins and very rarely turned a profit. Even now, games don't turn a profit, but they have stupid amounts of money pumped into them. Back then, these games would be made on like fucking Kit Kats and a packet of Quavers. They would be made for nothing, and they had hopes that they would be able to make a shit ton of money. Remedy didn't have the money, and Apogee wasn't giving them a lot of money to make the game. They just had to sort of make do and kind of do very smart game development tricks, such as using employees and their families to model for certain characters. Sam Lake had both his father and mother model for certain characters in the game as well. But what made Max Payne such a success? The game came out and it was, first of all, financially very successful, and secondly, critically, it is seen as one of the most important games ever made, and also is a must-play by most people's standard. Any game critic, any person that is into the history of games will say that Max Payne is a game that you should play at least once. So what makes it so good, and why is it seen as such a landmark title in an era where there was landmark title after landmark title? Well, and what made it so good that even Rockstar Games took an interest and bought the IP? Well, let's dive into that then, shall we?
Stand by. 1010, investigated reported disturbance at Acer Plaza.
10-4 dispatcher, verify address.
It's Acer Plaza. Repeat, Acer Plaza.
Shots fired on the rooftop. An assault in progress at Acer Plaza. Repeat, an assault in progress. It's a war zone down here. 1085 dispatcher, need additional units. Additional units now. Officer in danger. Officer in danger.
10-5, please repeat. 10-5, all units, emergency. Officer in danger. Acer Plaza. Repeat, Acer Plaza, all units.
They were all dead. The final gunshot was an exclamation mark to everything that had led to this point. I released my finger from the trigger, and then it was over.
Max Payne, of course, has us following the titular main protagonist, Max Payne, voiced by the legendary James McCaffrey. R.I.P. that legend again, I fucking love this guy. And Max is a New York City police detective, and the game implements a very effective use of in medias res, where the story starts somewhere else in the story that isn't the beginning and then returns to the beginning. But the game starts at the end and returns to the beginning. We see what happens at the end, and we now go back to see what happened. So it starts with us seeing Max being in quite the pickle, being surrounded by cops and looking down from a skyscraper, and now he explains the entire journey of how he got up to this point, with everything being set in motion to this point 3 years ago.
To make any kind of sense of it, I need to go back 3 years. Back to the night the pain started. I was still in the force back then. NYPD, Manhattan, Midtown North Precinct, Hell's Kitchen.
So when are you coming to work for me, Detective Payne?
You'd make me work undercover in some hellhole. Sorry, Alex. Michelle and the baby come first. See? My last smoke. It's bad for the baby.
That's you, Max. A regular Boy Scout.
See, Alex.
Still on for poker Thursday night, right?
Like taking candy from a baby. Life was good. The sun setting on a sweet summer's day. The smell of freshly mowed lawns. The sounds of children playing. A house across the river on the Jersey side. A beautiful wife and a baby girl. The American dream come true. Honey, I'm home. But dreams have a nasty habit of going bad when you're not looking. The sun went down with practiced bravado. Twilight crawled across the sky, laden with foreboding.
And we now go back to 3 years prior to his home in New Jersey.
Michelle, honey, anybody home? I didn't like the way the show started. They'd given me the best seat in the house, front row center.
In investigating the home, we find it is left in quite the state. Fuck me, you live like this, you dirty bastard. But the phone begins ringing, and answering it...
Listen, someone's broken into my house. Call 911.
Is this the Payne residence?
Yes, someone's broken into my house. They're still here. You have to...
Good. I'm afraid I cannot help you.
Who is this? Hello?
Seems someone can't help us, but with what exactly? Well, probably the strange noises that are going on upstairs. But also there's this marking on a wall with a V and a syringe going through it. Whoever's come through and is making all this noise has clearly done a little bit of home renovation. But what could this all mean? Well, Max tells us that it's all indeed quite diabolical. But heading upstairs, we start to hear screaming.
Michelle!
And we find the intruders, and this introduces us to the game's main gameplay, shooting. And Max Payne's shooting is really fun, mainly due to two factors. One, its simplicity, and two, bullet time. Max Payne's gameplay was very clearly inspired by classic Hong Kong action films, mainly John Woo's films, and obviously The Matrix with bullet time. Combat is fast, enemies are aggressive, but you can slow time down to allow you to line up shots or do some insane stupid shit like dive around a corner and shoot 4 guys in the head within 2 seconds. This allows you to create some really cinematic moments and makes the game as fun as you want it to be. Yes, you can do the Counter-Strike thing in my brain and AD a corner, just pop shotting rounds out like you're using an AK counter-strafing it, or you can just dive into a room with a rifle, shoot everyone, throw grenades while you're diving. You get the point. You can play the game how you want and what you find most fun. There isn't really a right way to play Max Payne from what I could figure out, as the way enemies attack you and shoot and approach you feels very random. They don't attack you on a set path. They will always do different things. They'll shoot you at different times. They'll even try to predict your movement sometimes, as occasionally, just standing still, they will shoot completely off target to like the left or right of you as they're trying to predict your movements. But the main key takeaway I would give you if you want to play Max Payne, especially on the high difficulties where it gets very difficult, is always be on the move. Movement is your best friend. Diving, dodging, rolling, these will help you dodge rounds, and especially if someone has a shotgun, they will be able to one-shot you with it, even on the easiest difficulty. So making sure that you're always moving and dodging as much as possible while shooting means that your survivability is significantly higher. And this makes for a fucking fantastic gameplay experience, as the game throws you into so many different environments filled with so many different enemies of all varying deadliness, different layouts of levels from the heights to floors to even like how narrow things are and how expansive they are. It's all very different, and it allows for the game to feel always fresh and new. And that is one of Max Payne's biggest strengths, is its level variety. But here it's just 2 goons. It's just introducing us to that gameplay, and we can blast them very easily away with our single Beretta, the base pistol. Decent, high rate of fire, low damage, is nothing too crazy, but it will be a good friend to you at the start of the game, and actually quite powerful when you've got 2 of them in each hand. But we now see what these thugs have done to our house.
No, please God, no.
Oh damn, they shot the baby. And also, Max's wife, Michelle.
No, 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 God, no, please, Michelle. Oh, baby.
Honestly, I really do like the opening of Max Payne. Not only is it quite shocking, to say the least, with Max's wife and baby daughter being shot and killed, it's just a good hook moment to get you on board with Max. Yeah, we don't know his wife, and we obviously don't know the dead baby, but a dead baby definitely gets you on board with him. You understand that that is not a good thing. I feel like an opening hook is something that a lot of games either do really well, do just passable enough, or they don't really bother with actually investing into. Especially now. I feel like a lot of modern games don't really give a fuck about the initial hook. They want to market the game to you and hype you up with the game without actually doing the job of hooking you in. Max Payne has done a stellar job at this. We saw the ending of the game with shit going down and Max being swarmed by cops, and then we see thugs invade his house, kill his daughter and his wife. We not only are interested in how Max ended up in the situation he is at the end, we're now seeing that his wife and daughter were killed, and we now want to understand what this journey is going to be. We're on board and we want to follow him on this journey. We want to get revenge for him, even though we don't know his wife and child that well, as they were shot and the only words that we hear his wife shout are. And with the opening scene as well, with him kicking his smoking habit for his little one, we know that he wanted to be that just normal dad. He was ready to sort of give up some more of the more, I guess, problematic things in his life. Smoking, maybe drinking. You get the point. He wanted to settle down more and just live a more simple life. But he can't really do that anymore now, can he? He can't really be happy.
That was 3 years ago. Everything ripped apart in a New York minute. The killer junkies had been high on a previously unknown designer drug, Valkyr, V. After the funeral, I told Alex I'd be transferring to the DEA. It took us 3 long years to get a break in the Valkyr case. Then, finally, 2 months ago, a dime dropper tipped us off that Jack Lupino, a mob boss in the Punchinello crime family, was trafficking. I went undercover, infiltrated the worst mafia family in New York.
But now we also get a bit of world building with a new drug called Valkyr plaguing the streets, and that Max has spent the last 3 years waiting for a break on the Valkyr case, a case which is somehow connected to the death of his wife and daughter, as the thugs who killed them were both high as a kite on that drug.
I came in from the cold and the dark. Outside the city was a cruel monster. I've been slowly working my way from the small time to the big fish, trying to get to the source of the drug. Alex and BB were my only contacts in the DEA, the only ones in this decrepit city who knew I was down here.
BB here. Something urgent has come up with Jack Lupino. You need to meet with Alex immediately at the Roscoe Street station.
I hadn't had a face-to-face with Alex since I'd gone undercover. Outside, the mercury was falling fast. It was colder than the devil's heart, raining ice pitchforks as if the heavens were ready to fall. Everyone was running for shelter like there was no tomorrow. It didn't get any better when I got to the subway.
Now Max requested to be transferred to the DEA, the same job that the funny Hank Schrader was doing in Breaking Bad. He wanted to join the war on drugs, and Max recently has been given a tip that a Jack Lupino, a mob boss in the Punchinello family, was trafficking the drug, so now we have a lead on where the drug has come from. So Max, in his years in the DEA, went undercover and infiltrated into the family.
The feeling hit me like a point-blank shot straight in the face. Something was not right about this. My Beretta stirred nervously under my coat, but the train doors had already shut behind me, and I was in for the ride. Next stop, Roscoe Street Station, and Alex.
We now find ourselves in the first true section of the game, the subway, and we have to find a meetup with our friend inside the DEA, Alex. No, not Alex Casey, Alex Balder. But of course, it will not be that easy.
The station was drenched in gloom. Alex was a ghost, nowhere to be seen. I'd have to look for him. Death was in the air at Roscoe Street. I'd have to find Alex fast.
As we immediately find ourselves a dead body on the floor, displaying to us that someone is running amok. And man, for a game from 2001, it's certainly got such a fun world to look around and look at. This game has really nice texture work, and for a game in 2001 especially, this was something that was somewhat revolutionary. It was used, but it was seen as a very expensive thing to do. Max Payne used a very early version and very early system that is similar to what we have now, which is photogrammetry, where you take photos of real life things, scan them into the game, and make textures with them. So a lot of the textures in this game are from real world locations that the team at Remedy used to make their textures. It was seen as something very ambitious and something that the team might not be able to handle, but they did a great job at it, and it has now led to this game having an atmosphere that is unlike any other. And this is one of Max Payne's greatest strengths, is the atmosphere that it's able to build up. The subway here really does feel like it's been around for decades. The amount of grime, dirt, and just how aged it looks. It doesn't look squeaky clean and new. It looks like it's been here for a while, and that's because a lot of this stuff has been. It's taken from real life locations which have been there for years. And with Remedy at the time having such limited hardware, remember this is on the original Xbox, PC at the time, and the PS2, they were able to make the city of New York truly embody what it is: a cold, chilly, damp, disgusting shithole. And to me, the only game that really rivals its depiction of New York would be something like Grand Theft Auto 4's Liberty City, which, hey, also a Rockstar game. And the crazy thing about Max Payne is that it came out 3 months before GTA 3. This game is 25 years old, by the way, this year. This game is older than me. I'm 22, if you want to know. This shit not only plays good, but to me, looks good. Yeah, it looks old, but for a 2001 game, it looks pretty good. It's on par with something like Halo CE or even GTA 3, which was seen as a massive evolution in 3D games. That was mainly because it was open world, but the fact that Max Payne can make such a similar looking game that is just as beautiful looking and make such a grimy city really does speak to the strengths that Remedy has as a studio. They're able to make environments truly atmospheric and feel truly lived in. And this is something that their strength has only grown in recent years. From Alan Wake, Quantum Break, Control, and most recently, of course, with one of my favorite games from them, Alan Wake 2, being these absolutely just atmosphere-filled, beautiful, driven experiences. Like, yeah, it's no Red Dead 2, but fuck it, this thing's from 2001, and it looks fucking good in my eyes. But heading back out to the platform, we can see that 2 mobsters, who are apparently sent here to clip us, are having a little chinwag, so why don't we clip them first before they can do that? And from that, we can obtain the Desert Eagle, a solid upgrade from the Beretta, allowing you to kill enemies a bit faster. But its ammo is significantly limited, and it means that you either need to be precise with your shots and not waste ammo, or use it sparingly and swap back to the Berettas. The Berettas you will find a shit ton of ammo for. You can spam these things like anything, and they're fairly fun to use like that, but their main problem is their damage. You will have to put 10, 15, maybe the entire mag's down range to deal with engagements. While the Deagle, you can kill entire rooms with just a mag if you place your shots right and land 7 headshots in a row. The Deagle early on is one of the better weapons in the game, and it is one that I found myself relying on the most. But not too long after that, going through a few more enemies, we can obtain the pump action shotgun, which is I'm a bit conflicted on the shotguns in this game overall. They're good, don't get me wrong. You can one pump a guy and send him flying across the room, but due to how pellet spread works in this game, it is random. That means if you miss 3 or 4 pellets in the shotgun shot, the gun can go from a 1 shot to a 3 or a 4 shot. It really does feel like you're only meant to use it within close proximity, but this early on, it's really your only other option over the pistols. And the pistols' very weak damage means it almost encourages you to either dive in with the shotgun to blast people away, or to take your time with the Desert Eagle and pick people off. The shotgun is okay, but I found it way too inconsistent, and I found myself using the Deagle more than it, because even when I was up close and personal, if I put 1 Deagle round in the head, it would kill them. So it kind of did the same job. But now we find a door that is locked and a locked door in front of us. So we have to head down further and rescue a subway worker who will then unlock the door for us. How incredibly unfortunate. But now, bringing the power back to line 2, we can board the maintenance train and bash our way through the wall into an abandoned part of the subway.
So much for being subtle. The door led to an abandoned part of the station, closed off since the early 40s. Something big was going down at Roscoe Street. Maybe that's why Alex had wanted to meet me here. Maybe not. One way or the other, I was gonna find out.
And we can now find ourselves getting right in the middle of an active bank robbery. But the most interesting thing about this robbery is the thugs here aren't taking the gold bars that are scattered all over the place. If anything, they're using them as a tool, they're using them as steps to get in and out of the hole that they made. Now, clearing them out, we can find the detonator for a door earlier that didn't have it, that we can now blow it open, and the phone will begin ringing.
We come to you now live from the crime scene.
Who is this?
Right back at you.
This is Deputy Chief Jim Bravura from the NYPD. You are to cease your criminal activities and surrender immediately.
Sure thing, Jim. Me and the boys have been talking, and everyone's real sorry. They'll never do it again.
Who the hell is this?
Being placed at the scene of a bank robbery wouldn't have tipped the odds in my favor.
Now, on the table, we can also find what the robbers were actually after. Corporation bonds for a company called the Aesir Corporation, a company that is doing so well its success story is being reported all over the news, with their stock price going through the roof. These bonds, these corporation bonds, are so valuable that gold in comparison is seen as worthless and is just a stepping stone to get to that true wealth. The Aesir Corporation embody true wealth. They are above gold. So what the hell did this company actually make? Why are they so valuable? Well, I'm sure you'll very quickly figure out what makes them so valuable. Anyway, we should actually leave the bank before the cops catch us. We don't want to be caught at the scene of a bank robbery. So taking the detonator, we now take it to that door and blow it up.
Hold it! Max! Jesus, you almost gave me a heart attack! I nearly shot you!
Alex, I'm glad to see you.
What the hell's going on? There are more corpses here than at the city morgue!
It's an armed robbery. Tunnel job straight to the Roscoe bank vault through the old station wall. This is why. This is Lupino's gig?
This is Lupino's doing? Lupino's men? Really?
You sure know how to pick a place? Can you get through?
It's locked. We gotta get out of here. If it's Lupino, it's... Alex! Alex!
There was nothing I could do. He was dead. I could tell by the empty, accusing stare of his eyes.
Alex, our friend on the inside, our compatriot, is killed by a random gunman. Or was he targeted, as we were by those two guys earlier, but we couldn't talk to the guy that shot him or even catch him. But we have to leave him because the cops are fast approaching. Fighting our way out, we now reach the city street.
Alex had kept me relatively sane for the past 3 years. Now I didn't know how I felt. Somehow he had stumbled upon something big and ended up stepping on Jack Lupino's toes.
Alex was targeted by Jack Lupino because he found something very big that he was about to share with us. So now we head out to Lupino's hotel, or illegal brothel, but the cops are currently searching for Max and they have blamed Max for the death of Alex, as we were seen leaving the scene of the crime, or someone framed us for it.
Lupino ran his racket of sex, drugs, and contract killings from a sleazy hotel in a slum block of tenements. The NYPD was closing in. I could hear the sirens. Their wail was a crescendo. Lupino thought he could get us by taking Alex out and leaving me to take the fall for it. All he had gotten was my attention. I went for the hotel first. It was a sad old thing with flickering lamps and faded colors, cheap mobster punks and tired-eyed prostitutes. I walked straight in, playing at Bogart like I'd done 100 times before. The place was run by a couple of murdering mobsters with shark smiles. the Finito brothers.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the pain in the butt. Pain to the max.
You're killing me. Did you make that up yourselves, or you get some wino downstairs to come up with it? Don't answer that. A rhetorical question. I got something for the boss. Lupino around?
That kind of depends on who's asking. A friend or a junk squad plan. But don't answer. It's one of them, how do you put it, rhetorical questions. Lupino ain't here, but he said bye.
Lupino wasn't in his cheap hotel. Instead, I ran into the Finito brothers. My cover had been blown. The door slammed shut behind me. And then I was dodging bullets like raindrops.
Pain in the butt. Pain to the max. Junk squad pain. Gotta take it apart.
But with us reaching the hotel, the Finito brothers now try to whack us as we ask about Lupino, and they found out that we are not actually a random goon. We are an undercover cop, and they tried to deal with us in the hotel, so we have to shoot our way out. But on the desk, we can find a letter.
I had met Lupino only once. The gangster ran all his rackets through his right-hand man, Vinny Gognitti. Gognitti was a high-strung whiner on the verge of breaking apart, like an overamped Energizer bunny. He had the brains to run the business, but he lacked the balls, always falling short, taking his frustration out on underage addicts and call girls.
The V deal goes down at your hotel. Jack's exact words, quote, Vinny, you're in charge of this one, unquote. Rico Muerte's coming to see it through. Anything goes wrong and everybody's gonna get dead. Goes double for you. Treat this guy real good. Anything he wants, you give him. Don't screw this up or you're finito, finitos.
A V deal meant added security, locked doors, and lots of nervous thugs with itchy trigger fingers. I'd seen nothing coming in, but that didn't mean it hadn't been there. Rico Muerte was a regular Kaiser Soze, a spook story told to keep the apes in line. 313. The Finitos had scribbled Muerte's room number on the note's margin.
Seems a big V deal had happened at the hotel with Rico, the one doing the dealing. But again, our cover was blown and we couldn't do anything about this. So we now need to head our way over to room 313 and deal with everyone in the meantime to try find some information about this dealing. Either who was buying or who was supplying the drug that they were selling. And the hotel genuinely might be my favorite level in the entire game. It's this proper grimy place and it just has a nice feel to it. It's a good flow, the way it's laid out, how enemies approach you, everything just feels right and fun to play through. It really does use the gameplay in a good way, and because it's so early on, it's the most simple the game is in terms of how enemies approach you and attack you and what they can use against you. But that's a good thing because it also means that you learn how to move, how to strafe, how to dive properly when there's not as much going on. Of course, more stuff gets thrown in and you have to learn to deal with them, but at that point you'll have learned how to strafe, dodge, roll, so on and so forth. Now on a radio in a room, we can hear a news report.
In his press conference today, the mayor stated that Valkyr represents a clear danger to New York and called for drastic actions to eliminate the problem. On today's top story, the Valkyr crisis worsens with the murder of DEA Special Agent Alex Balder. Special Agent Balder had been shot repeatedly from a point-blank range. The gunman has been identified as Max Payne. The noose is sure to tighten around this fugitive criminal as more NYPD units join the search to apprehend him.
I had just gotten my 15 minutes of fame.
Max has been named on the news now as the shooter in Alex's death. So not only do we have the mob and the cops on us, but also we have the general city now knowing that we were the one that killed him. So we have to be not only wary of the mob and the police, but also maybe some other party could come in and try to deal with us as well. And one of those parties that could try to deal with us is junkies. Junkies can be found tweaking and just chilling out, and they can be deadly if you get too close to them. So as long as you don't get too close to them or hit them, they won't attack you. But the junkies have more health than the mobsters and they'll take more damage, and also they're mostly equipped with Berettas. But if you accidentally brush up against them, or if they get hit in the crossfire when you're fighting a couple of mobsters, they will start to attack you and you can quickly get overwhelmed by them because they are unrelenting in their approach towards you. They won't take cover, they will just sprint straight at you. But after a bit more shooting, we can find a TV with the same news report about Alex's death and putting a face to the killer. Our face. Putting our face out there to the world. But reaching room 313, we find a trap that was set up by Rico, who was doing dealings as he didn't want anyone in his room. But inside the room, we can find a letter on the desk.
Our investigation had turned up nothing to link Angelo Punchinello, the head of the Punchinello family, to Valkyr. All tracks had ended with Jack Lupino. The letter in Muerte's room was signed by the Don himself. It was the first hint that the Kingpin knew what was brewing inside his syndicate.
The trouble you got into after the Chicago screw-up. The Punchinello family bailed you out. You have been waiting for a chance to pay us back. One of our trusted boys has a monkey the size of King Kong on his back, and we need your special skills for backup on a major deal.
Collecting evidence had gotten old a few hundred bullets back. I was already so far past the point of no return I couldn't even remember what it looked like when I had passed it.
Seems the crime family has a lot of shit going on, and the top dog, the Don, is trying to pull some strings. But heading to now room 216, we can find the diary of one of the girls that worked here.
The diary belonged to a hooker named Candy Dawn. The read would have made a vice cop blush.
Had talks with the mystery hag over the phone again. Sent her the latest One-Eyed Alfred tape. As long as the hag keeps paying for the tapes, the old man could come every day for all I care.
She had a nice sideline, making secret X-rated flicks of her clients and selling them to the highest bidder. It would get her killed if her V-fix for the day didn't do it first.
So the girl, Candy, was secretly recording her dealings with older gentlemen. I'm guessing some more powerful governmental type figures. And we can find the camera that she was using to record them in this little hidden room. And she would give these tapes that she would make to a hag. Who is this mystery hag? Who knows, but she's someone very clearly benefiting from having this blackmail on important governmental type figures. Who knows, maybe we'll find out more as we dive into the depths of this place.
The old service elevator rumbled down to the bowels of Jack Lupino's hotel.
Now having an extended shooting section at this point, we'll have access to the sawed-off shotgun, and also we have really familiarized ourselves with the bullet time mechanics at this point, and the game will start throwing significantly more enemies at you. And that's what I really like about Max Payne. It doesn't throw you too far into the deep end immediately. It really does slowly ramp up, and the game constantly ramps up the difficulty as you're going through it, giving more enemy types, enemies with more weapons, but the enemies will get weapons that you also will have access to. The sawed-off shotgun, for example, is a shotgun that can be better than the pump action because you can shoot 2 rounds really quickly but then have to reload it. But the gangsters also have this weapon as well, so they benefit from it as well, but because you also have it, you can use it against them. And that's what I really like about Max Payne, is how it uses the weapons in an engaging way to make level variety feel more varied. The first gangsters that we've been facing have been mainly equipped with pump action shotguns, Berettas and Deagles. Giving them the sawed-off shotgun is something that is slightly different. It makes them act a bit differently. They'll be able to shoot 2 shotgun shells at you almost instantly, and 1 shotgun shell, if landed correctly, can kill you. But not only that, you'll start seeing some of them with the Ingrams, SMGs, which can be extremely deadly as well. But this happens throughout the entire game. Enemies slowly get access to more kit, they behave differently with these items and weapons that they have, and it makes each level in each mission feel way different and actually more fun to play through. For a first attempt game, by the way, as well, in 2001, where in my opinion the best shooter that had been made up to this point was probably games akin to the boomer shooters, so Quake, Doom, Duke Nukem 3D, these sort of games, and also like the GoldenEye style games, so obviously GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, which released a little bit earlier, but nothing had really been done like Max Payne, akin to this, a third-person shooter game. Nothing had really been done like this before. I think that's what makes Max Payne so interesting, because I think it's the first time that a third-person shooter was done really well. The games most similar to Max Payne would be something like Tomb Raider, like the old ones, but I feel like this was the first game that really did polish up shooting mechanics for a third person, and first person shooter games would be significantly more popular for the years to come. Obviously about 6 months later, after Max Payne's release, Halo 1 would come out. That would then start the whole fucking Halo series and then would revolutionize the Call of Duty series, Battlefield, Medal of Honor, so on and so forth. But seeing a game like this get made this early on, like, it's actually crazy how Max Payne predates a lot of the most influential shooters ever made. Obviously, Doom, Duke Nukem, Quake, those were before Max Payne, but things like Half-Life, Halo, COD, all these shooters which do use things that Max Payne did. Think Call of Duty and their slow-mo sequences fucking in Black Ops 2 in the club where you're like going in slow motion shooting guys one by one. That's kind of inspired by Max Payne and what it kind of made with its bullet time mechanics. I don't think a lot of these games that would implement these slow motion sequences would exist without Max Payne. And the funny thing is, Max Payne does these mechanics and this element, the bullet time effect, way better than games that came out decades after it. Black Ops 2 came out in 2012. I don't think its slow motion sequence that are completely on rails are anything akin to what Max Payne 1 is, or even Max Payne 2 did in 2004. And this is something I think Max Payne's kind of been forgotten about because it isn't the most, I guess, celebrated game because it isn't the peak of what games were. It's not a Half-Life. It's not a Halo 1, which revolutionized a lot more. It does something very simple and introduces that and makes that a cool feature that games had. They became almost a must-have thing for shooters, was these slow-mo sequences, other than Halo. I don't remember Halo having it. And it's just such a fun game to play. It reminds me, of course, of something like Superhot, which used bullet time and movement to great effect with you dodging enemy attacks. And I think even that is inspired heavily probably by Max Payne. It's just so satisfying, combining the gameplay with the amazing sound design that is really good, and then fun final kill cutscenes where the game sort of zooms in and shows the guy dying. Insane. Like, again, I'm so surprised this game is from 2001 and was probably made on a budget of a Kit Kat and a packet of Quavers. But on another TV, we can now find a weather report about a really bad winter storm starting to coat the city, with the blizzard having ravaged the entire city for 3 straight days now. And this is to the advantage of Max, as no one is out on the streets walking about and just having fun because it is really fucking cold and it is snowing sideways out there. So most people are going to be inside their houses just trying to hunker down and survive the storm. But within the boiler room, we can find an interrogation, or a recently completed interrogation, and a man on the floor dead with a baseball bat next to him.
A dead man tied to a chair lay on the boiler room floor.
Captain Baseball Bat Boy has an unbeatable track record in superhero death matches. But a 6-pack of root beer gets me every time.
The murder weapon was a baseball bat, now lying in a pool of drying blood next to a newspaper folded open on a Captain Baseball Bat Boy comic strip.
Seems the killer is a fan of the Baseball Bat Boy comic strip, but now we actually obtain the baseball bat weapon. It's useless. I hate to say it, I always find it a shame, but the melee weapons feel so useless in this game. There is one section in the entire game where the melee weapons actually feel like they're used well, but I'm so surprised there isn't like a scene where a bunch of guys run at us with like melee weapons and we can use a melee weapon. It just feels useless. Yeah, you can have fun with like a challenge where you try to only use the melee weapons, but you'll die so quick and you'll have to play a way that is so boring by baiting enemies in to come get you. It just seems like such a useless weapon, but of course it's there if you run out of ammo somehow, if you're a bit too willy-nilly just blasting bullets absolutely everywhere in every direction, because you can very quickly run out of ammo if you just waste it, obviously. But making our way back upstairs and into the bar, we can finally meet Rico, the man that was doing the dealing of V.
2 mad dog killers, ready to murder each other. They step into the next room, and I'm thinking, now they're gonna do it. But no, they sit down in front of a TV and solve their differences with the Kung Fu fighting video game. I tell you, kid, I was so depressed, I strangled them both with the video game cables.
Oh, Rico, you're so bad.
I am, ain't I?
Rico Muerte, big-time hustler.
Who the hell?
It's that cop.
Muerte went for his gun.
And we get into a massive shootout, killing everyone, including Rico, his thugs, the woman Candy who is making the tapes and giving him a quick blowy. It just goes a bit insane, But killing all of them and moving past them, we can reach old-style phone switchboard, and using it, we can listen into Gognitti starting to panic and ordering his thugs to deal with us.
Gognitti, that's Max Payne. That game started capitalist. He killed him.
Are you freaking kidding me? It's just one lousy cop. You better be freaking kidding me. Whack him. What's the freaking problem? Hello? Answer me. Hello?
The word was out. A deadly virus released into the city's corrupt circulatory system. Something wicked this way comes. Max Payne at large.
With our lead on Lupino going cold, with Rico being dead, I guess he should be the next man we should hunt. Gognitti. So we now exit the hotel.
Round, walk away, blow town. That would have been the smart thing to do. Guess I wasn't that smart. Lupino's tenement buildings were a seedy hangout for all kinds of sleaze. A liquor store, a pawn shop, a laundromat full of mobster bookies and loan sharks. The list went on. The how and why of it was a mystery to me, but they knew I was a cop. They knew I was coming, and they were going to get real trigger happy about it. I got to see Lupino's hangout all lit up. A bomb went off, turning snow into liquid gold. A pillar of fire lifted the remains of a car straight up into the air. The flames were highlighted on the hood of a black Mercedes-Benz as it coasted down the street real slow, as if the driver didn't have a worry in the world. I got a good look at the man riding shotgun. It was Vladimir, the head of the local Russian mob, the fly in Don Punchinello's soup. The ringing in my ears was the sound of a mob war being waged. Another bomb exploded inside the closest slum building. It was a lucky break. The goons inside were spooked, but luck always came with a price tag. More bombs could still be ticking inside, and the cops would already be on their way. Jack Lupino's suite was on the top floor. At least it used to be, before the explosive makeover.
Hey, if you couldn't tell that they were the Russian mob, their fucking number plate is vodka. Little one knows that, isn't it? Now we are heading to Jack Lupino's place, and the lorry explosion has sent a bunch of goons into a frenzy, with the building now blowing up as there was explosives planted. And also, of course, an explosion. The cops are now coming to investigate it. So we need to not only hurry up and fight our way through the mobsters, but now the fun part is that the cops will start to enter certain parts of this level, and they will occupy it and kind of cordon it off, not allowing you in or killing you extremely quickly if you try to enter it. They are extremely deadly, being equipped with the best guns in the game, the Colt carbine, so avoiding them at the moment is your best option. But a letter from Gognitti tells us that the Russians have lost a hell of a lot of weapons, and that the remainder of the ones that they have can be easily bought, so they shouldn't be in a position to try hit the family. And boy, they were wrong. Gognitti completely underestimated the Russians, and he started pushing the Russians too much, which has led to what has just happened in front of our eyes, with the Russians causing a little bit of chaos with only a few pounds of explosives. The Russians are quick-witted and are using this situation with Max to cause some extra damage. They know that Max is causing a little bit of chaos, so they did a small bit of pranking to do some more damage. So maybe it was the Russians that sold us out to the cops, calling us to them, so it made sure that we went through as fast as possible, or maybe it was someone else, we don't know yet. But with the bombs having destroyed all the stairs to Lupino's office, we need to take to the outside and navigate the rooftops to reach our desired destination. Man, really fun level. I like this level a lot, as it's just got this vibe to it. The snowfall, the dark, gritty atmosphere, proper noir style to it, and I just adore it. But most importantly, we really do start to truly see the effect that the drug Valkyr has on the city, with a hell of a lot of junkies being scattered all throughout these abandoned buildings, all huddled in corners trying to survive the cold, displaying the damage that this drug has caused upon the city. And with a locked door in front of us and the help of a local, we can unlock the way into the laundromat.
It's a trap! It's Payne!
with him now betraying us after the fact. But luckily, we have obtained the engrams and grenades, making quick work of them. The engrams are the SMGs and probably the second or third best gun in the game. Being able to wield 2 of them as well and dive around makes them highly effective and extremely deadly, being able to clear out entire rooms almost instantly. But their high rate of fire means ammo is drained extremely quickly, so you either have to be accurate or use them sparingly. Grenades are really good as well, and Molotov's also a fairly decent. Grenades are really good fun because you can flush enemies out of corners by bouncing them off walls, and Molotovs can be used as almost a mine, throwing them on the floor if an enemy is chasing you and setting them alight. Grenades are definitely something you'll want to familiarize yourself with and use as much as possible, as one grenade can kill as many people that are within its radius, and especially on some of the later levels, bouncing them around corners is almost essential to completing the levels. But now taking the elevator up, we can find a small apartment with a guy in the bathroom. This feels like a reference to something with the SMG on the counter. It's a Pulp Fiction reference. But more importantly, the TV, with another report about what's going on with Valkyr-related gang wars occurring between the Italians, Punchinello's family, and the Russians. But we, Max Payne, are at war with the cops, not the mob. So they're reporting that there is 2 separate wars going on. The gang war, which is between the Italian mob and the Russian mob, and the war of Max Payne against the cops, even though Max hasn't killed any cops at this point. But the deputy chief might be a bit behind catching us, as he promises that he will bring us in. But he hasn't really even gotten that close to us yet. There was that one point where you run into the cops behind like the window thing. Other than that, he's nowhere near us, but it's kind of just meant to show that the cops are really struggling to get to you just because of how much shit is going on with them. 2 mobs, the storm that's going on, and also Max is a slippery motherfucker. But also, we can find another TV with a show about a flamingo talking about mirrors and shit. There's a couple of these TVs that have these shows playing on them. We saw one earlier with a TV show called Lords and Ladies playing on it. Now, the one with the flamingo, Address Unknown as the TV program is called, is a massive nod to one of Sam Lake's very clear, big inspirations, one of his favorite things in life, and is one of the main inspirations behind not only his writing, but also Alan Wake as a whole, is Twin Peaks. This TV show is meant to be a little nod to Twin Peaks, but also it can be weirdly seen as a connection and a hint towards Alan Wake as well, because it does mention a lot of story beats that appear in Alan Wake, like a shadow self, an evil clone, yada yada yada. You get the point. But the TV shows in Max Payne are meant to reflect what is happening to Max and his journey currently. It's a meta-narrative, if you will, displaying how the acts in this fictional world are also happening in the real world. So, for example, what happens in the game is happening in these TV shows. So it's like a reflection of both, like basically asking which world is real. And it's meant to reflect that these things do happen in real life. But the Address Unknown one, the one with the flamingo in it, I think is the most important one to actually look at. The main character, John, starts to have these dreams and is told by his evil doppelganger, John Mirror, this really does sound familiar, doesn't it, that he had killed his girlfriend. And then it turns out that he is in the hospital with a brain tumor and is diagnosed with schizophrenia. And it ends with John believing that maybe he and John Mirror are the same person. Maybe he was denying what actually happened. Obviously, this links to Max's narrative. It's him questioning what actually happened to his wife and child, and later on, this question will be raised again. But running over rooftops and through the building, we eventually reach the very man that we were after, Vinny Gognitti.
Vinny Gognitti, just the man I've been killing to see.
Payne? Freaking fed! I knew from day one there was something screwy about you. What do you think you're doing? You're a freaking cop. You ain't got squat on us. You can't just come in here waving your piece like it meant something. Yeah! Oh my God! Oh God, you shot me! Ah! You're dead, Payne! What the hell are you waiting for, you apes? Kill him! Kill him!
With pleasure, boss.
Gognitti bailed. I made like Chow Yun Fat.
With Gognitti being shot, he starts to make a run for it and he sets his boys on us. and we have to give chase while fighting our way through the rooftops and buildings. But interestingly, we can find a letter that Gognitti wrote and was going to send to the Don, displaying that Vinny was terrified of Jack Lupino, with him, Jack, going absolutely psycho, killing people because he wanted to see what their insides looked like. His own people as well. These weren't random people that they captured. These were like his henchmen that he was just killing. But it does warn us that Lupino might be a little bit cray-cray. But with Vinny jumping on a train as we're trying to chase him, we follow suit and we use the train to travel across the city. And somehow once we travel across the entire city, there are even more goons there that are ready to fight us and a police helicopter. But eventually, with enough bullets and painkillers and finding a dead cop being buried to hide him, how fun, we can find an in-progress Valkyr deal going down and disrupt it because we are a good cop. But we can also find another TV with the police chief still talking about not being able to catch us. And it's probably because we're halfway across the city at this point. But now we catch up to Vinny, have one final shootout with him and kill some of his bodyguards, and now we finally can catch Vinny.
Gognitti ran out of steam in a dead-end alley with steam boiling out of the sewer grates like all the fires of hell were burning high beneath us. It was shakedown time. Where's Lupino?
Screw you!
Bad start, Vinny.
Police brutality!
I rate pretty high on that.
You can't just hurt me in cold blood?
Just keep telling yourself that. Listen good, Candyman. I'm not gonna be anybody's fall guy. I want to know where your boss is hiding. There was no glory in this. I hadn't asked for this crap. Trouble had come to me in big dark swarms. The good and the just were like gold dust in the city. I had no illusions. I was not one of them. I was no hero. Just me and the gun and the crook. My options had decreased to a singular course.
I'll tell you, just don't hurt me no more. Lupino's at Ragnarok, the nightclub. Book me, take me in, hold me to the freaking jail, just don't hurt me.
Your rights will be read at your funeral.
And Vinny has given us what we wanted, the location of Lupino, with him now being held up at the Ragnarok nightclub. I wonder if the old gods of Asgard are playing there.
Ragnarok was Lupino's private nightclub, a den of drugs built into an old theater. I knew what waited inside. V-head junkies ready to explode in random acts of senseless violence, and Lupino's goon squad, the worst stone-cold killers this side of hell. Ragnarok was as inviting as a headache, flickering and flashing to a machine gun beat. The belly of the nightclub was a gothic theme park that began with bondage games and led to the nasty stuff from there. As subtle with its dark message as a cop-killer bullet through the heart. Like father, like son, just like Jack Lupino.
The Ragnarok nightclub is a really cool setting and probably my second favorite level in the game, just behind the opening hotel sequence. I think that's mainly due to the fact of how the hotel sequence has a lot of cool story stuff in it, and the Ragnarok nightclub is kind of the ending part of chapter 1. So there isn't as much going on, but it definitely does go into some more interesting shit. Mainly, it's more mythological connection in this game. Sam Lake has always liked to tie in Norse myth into all of his stories in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, in Alan Wake, we had the old gods of Asgard and their members. In Max Payne, we've obviously had the Aesir Foundation, Valkyr Drug, and the characters having eerily similar names to other gods in Norse myth. Alex Balder, so on and so forth, if you get the point. Quantum Break and Control, honestly, I'm kind of rusty on them, so I won't be able to comment on that, which makes complete sense. Sam Lake, of course, is from Finland, which is a country that has a long, rich history with many of the countries who did believe in the Norse gods and intermingled with them a lot. Finland didn't actually believe in the Norse gods. My histories, I really try to figure this out. They have a really weird history. Basically, the Saxons, Vikings, the ones that believed in the Norse gods never invaded Finland and took over it and made them believe in that history. They kind of were just allies and traded with them because Finland just had a lot of shit that they wanted and they didn't want to go through the headache of attacking them, which is pretty rare for the Vikings, because they did like to fight. But because they were constantly trading and interacting with these cultures, a lot of that stuff sort of interwove into Finland, and obviously a lot of shit was in there. So a lot of the figures and the gods and such became known within Finnish culture. But also I think Sam Lake just finds it interesting, if I had to assume. Finland is a very interesting country. I don't know why every person from there is a bit odd and is like makes weird games, but hey, they seem nice nonetheless. But Sam Lake, he does love a Norse reference a lot, and Ragnarok is the end of the world, the days where the gods are killed. So are we gonna end the world and kill the gods? Maybe. But in a room, we can also find a book titled The Age of Murder and Storm.
Given the setting, I was surprised to find that somebody had been passing time reading. The paperback was entitled The Age of Murder and Storm. The blurb on the back mentioned Norse mythos and Ragnarok, the end of a Viking world with a terrible winter that covered the earth in ice, when vile crimes were rampant and all humanity lost. I could see how somebody impressionable might get it into their head that we were at the end of time. I was also beginning to see what the nightclub and its owner were all about.
Hey, it's talking about the event Ragnarok, one that causes a cataclysmic storm to freeze the world, kind of like what New York is being hit by currently. But what causes Ragnarok to actually happen in the myth? What is the first event that occurs that kind of sets everything on that path? Well, Ragnarok begins with Balder, the son of Odin and Frigg, the god of light, being killed by Loki, kind of like in that game called God of War. And what happened at the beginning of this game? No, not our wife and child were killed, but our friend Alex Balder is killed, and that sets us on this entire path. Does that mean that the man that shot him is Loki? Who knows? But what does that make Max, the one who is going against Valkyr? The Valkyries, the warriors of Asgard, the Aesir, the gods of Asgard. Does it make him Surtur, maybe? The one that wants to bring an end to the Aesir and bring about a new dawn? Maybe. It's probably not that. There is actually a few interpretations of who Max is. He could be Thor, he could obviously be Surtur, but it isn't really played like that. While Sam Lake does make references and uses the Norse Ragnarok mythos to make the story and build a lot of the events up and explain the story and sort of show these fun little narrative links, not every character is linked to Norse myth, and not every character does exactly what their counterpart does. For example, Alex Balder is a pretty generic looking middle-aged white man from New York, while the actual Balder in Norse was apparently the most handsome, beautiful man of the AC. He was the most desirable one out of them all. Obviously, that's not reflected in God of War. I mean, maybe it is. Like, they all look kind of disgusting in that game. But it's meant to show that they're not exact characters. It's not actually the Norse myth. It's just kind of like a fun little narrative link. But it does show that there is a significant deeper level to this narrative, that there is way more under the hood than just guy is a bit angry, runs around shooting people and does a couple dives. But now in the club, we do our best John Wick impression, running around shooting all the mobsters, all while having a little boogie on the dance floor. But in between this little boogie time, we can find some rooms filled with a bunch of different books. One of the books that we can find is the Necronomicon, a bit of H.P. Lovecraft I see we're reading. Then there's one on witchcraft, Paradise Lost, which is a poem by John Milton about the fall of man from the Garden of Eden, and some more exotic named ones like, oh, here we go, different languages. Malleus Maleficarum, a book by Heinrich Kramer, another book about witchcraft, and De Umbramra Regni Novum Portis, which is mostly translated apparently as the Nine Doors. That is a long way of saying the Nine Doors, and it is very much about hell. I think the man who is reading this, Lapino, has definitely gone off on the deep end and is definitely into that edgy early 2000s taste. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, hell, praise Satan, and I wear black, and I like goth chicks. Damn, that actually sounds nice. But something demonic is definitely going on at the Ragnarok Club. Or has someone just completely lost their marbles? Maybe that. But finding our way through, we can find the drug Valkyr again being dealt here, either to be used in the club, or they are selling it from the club. And because Jack Lapino is actually running the club, I'm guessing they're selling it from here. But making our way behind the stage, we can actually make our way into the sanctum. What the fuck?
The backstage area led to Lupino's inner sanctum. The hot air inside was like an invisible wall, thick with incense and something else, a sickly sweet smell that made you gag. This was the rotten core of the Big Apple. Lupino lurked somewhere ahead, like a spider at the center of his web, waiting. The vapors in the air started to make my head swim. Torn pieces of a letter lay scattered on the sofa.
And yeah, Lupino has completely lost it, doing some kind of ritual now here. And it seems that Lupino hasn't been a good boy, with Punchinello threatening him to get back in line, threatening him that he will send the trio after him, his 3 top boys. I don't know why, but every time a trio is brought up, I always think of, oh, the Holy Trinity. I could be that. There isn't a trio in Norse myth that I know of off the top of my head. There could be like a really small one, but their names don't make a lot of sense either because they're never really brought to attention. But it seems that even Lupino was pissing off the top guy of this family. And on the other table, we can see that Lupino was trying to summon a demon. It didn't matter which demon, he would have taken any of them, be it the devil itself, Satan, Beelzebub, fucking whoever, anyone. He would have taken whoever he got. But his speech on the altar are about 2 wolves. There are 2 wolves inside of me. One that's eating the sun and the other the moon. Skoll and Haiti, the wolves that eat the sun and the moon when Ragnarok occurs. The one that, you know, the 2 that are in God of War Ragnarok again. Hey guys, look, Jingle Keys, you know that game. And he himself refers to himself as a wolf. Lupino is the wolf, the big bad Fenris. He is literally fucking telling us who he is. Fenris, if you don't know, is the one that is foretold to kill Odin. And it seems that Lupino did believe that the world was ending and that it was following the Norse Ragnarok. And he was Fenris. He was the one destined to kill Odin. But who is Odin? Who knows? Could it be the man on the phone that seems to know everything? Alfred Woden. I'll say what Odin. Yeah, maybe. But the interesting thing about Fenris is that he is the child of Loki. So this could tell us that he is a subordinate to someone. Someone is instructing him and telling him that this is happening and that he's going to kill a certain person. Maybe even using his obsession with the Norse mythology to manipulate him even more. But now heading upstairs, we can actually run into Lupino currently doing his ritual for something. His ritual is taking a shit ton of drugs, if you want to know.
Reality. I've seen it. The corruption of flesh.
And now we have this extended fight, and it is actually a great deal of fun. I really like this fight. They just throw a shit ton of bodies at you, all with different weapons. Some of them are throwing Molotovs at you, so it just gets so hot and spicy and a bit sweaty. It's just fun. It's a good section to just let loose in and just fucking go ham with weapons, because they give you a shit ton of ammo to just play around with. And eventually, Lupino joins in on the fun, and Max does state that he is juiced up and ready to take on a mutant alligator. But the most interesting thing that Lupino states is that he has tasted the flesh of fallen angels. Fallen angels, of course, is an angel that have turned their back on heaven, or in Norse mythos, I guess, the Aesir? Maybe? I'm not sure. The most famous fallen angel, of course, is Lucifer. But what does he fucking mean that he's tasted the flesh of fallen angels? Well, the Valkyr, the Valkyries in Norse, are kind of angels, kind of. They're somewhat similar. They're always depicted with wings and humanoid figures, and mostly angels are depicted like that. I know people are going to give me the biblically accurate angel shit, but in most stories and fictional worlds, angels are always depicted as humanoid figures with wings. So if he's talking about Valkyries, or the Valkyr, he's basically saying that he's taken the drug. But if you want to know, the Valkyries were responsible for choosing the best warriors who died in battle, and they would bring them to Valhalla. Heaven, kind of, in Norse. There's kind of 2 heaven locations in Norse mythology. Valhalla would be the one where warriors who died valiantly in battle and would continue to fight and live like the warrior lifestyle. They would eat, they would drink, they would fight, and they would fucking love it. And they would keep doing this eternally until Ragnarok would come, and then they would join in that war in Ragnarok. But the other one is Folkvanga, the place where people would go to who were good and they weren't going to Valhalla. A beautiful field land where people would live a peaceful life. Boring. I don't get to fucking fight. It's kind of heaven, kind of. And then, of course, there is the third option. Well, there's actually 4 options. There's Helheim, which is hell, technically. And then there's another one for people that drowned at sea. Fucking Norse is weird, man. But Lupino references eating fallen angels. So he's stating that the Valkyr drug that he's taken isn't what it actually is meant to be. It's not like the Valkyries who are lifting him up to heaven or wherever. They're dragging him down, bringing him to a dark place, maybe taking him to hell itself. But after this, he mentions a woman who will bring a twilight winter, and he is ready to be her son. Well, if we are following the direct Norse myth, Fenris is Angrboda's son. Angrboda, known as the bringer of grief, which grief is often described as hell to some people, so maybe that's what she's brought to him. But he mentions this individual brings the winter. The winter in Ragnarok that lasts 3 years, in Max Payne has lasted 3 days. You see the connection here. He is talking about a woman who set all of this in motion, but who is this person? Well, maybe it's the same woman who set our journey all in motion, the woman's voice that was on that phone back at our place in New Jersey, when our wife and child were killed by those 2 drug-fueled maniacs. But we don't really learn anything because Lupino is a fucking psycho, so he just starts attacking us. So quickly dealing with him, we now get to meet someone new.
When Lupino finally went down, I wanted to make real sure he'd stay that way. He was a bad monster, turned them into friggin' zombie demons from outer space.
I think he's dead already.
Huh? And that's when it happened.
But dead or not, you've got the wrong guy.
In stepped this knockout femme fatale holding a gun to my face. I returned the favor. Lisa Punchinello. Lisa Punchinello was the Don's wife.
Mona Sax. Lisa's evil twin.
Your safety's off, evil twin. You might hurt someone with that gun of yours.
Lisa's the damsel in distress. I'm the professional. I'd blow you away without batting an eye.
Sure, and you can check out my credentials splattered all over this joint.
Jack couldn't have framed you. Not the state he was in. We're after the same slime bag. Angelo Punchinello's the one who murdered your friend and framed you with it.
You know this for a fact.
I've got my sources.
I don't have a clue these days. I just shoot them as they come. Who put a contract on the Archfiend?
This one's mine. I hate the guts of that sadistic wife-beater. Why not pool our bullets for this one?
I thought you'd never ask. My finger was starting to twitch.
How do you like your whiskey?
I'm easy, as long as you don't try to slip me a Mickey.
You're a real angel, Max.
It was good stuff. Tasted sweet as honey going down.
Nothing personal. Can't risk you going berserk and getting Lisa killed.
The nightmare was always the same. Violent shapes moving in darkness, old and ugly. The killer's mad laughter was a riddle filled with wicked innuendo.
Well, Max is a man tricked by a pretty face, with Mona Sax here, the twin of Lisa Punchinello, that's Punchinello's wife, drugging us and knocking us out, giving us the Valkyr drug. But she does give us some new important information, that Lupino couldn't have been the one to frame us for Alex's murder. It was someone else, the same slime bag that Mona is after. Angelo Punchinello, because if you want to know, Mona wants to kill him because he is beating her twin sister up, his wife, and we want him dead because he might have killed our wife. Cool, we get the idea. But Mona doesn't want us going all guns blazing into the Punchinello manor and potentially getting her sister killed, so she drugs us and makes sure that we're down for the count for a little bit while she goes and does her job. And now we get to engage with the fun drug sequence that every game had in the early 2000s.
Somewhere, the baby was crying.
And navigating this dream sequence, we can find some fairly odd scenes, like us strapped to a chair.
Should have known it when we found you snoring next to Lupino's corpse. A comedian, huh?
How strange. And upstairs there is something even stranger. A blood trail that goes over an abyss. Man, this Valkyr stuff is pretty fucking strong, ain't it? But throughout all of this and following the blood trail, we can hear a baby crying. Our baby. Thank you, game, I didn't realize the baby was dead. But the next scene is a bit, interesting to say the least.
Murderer! You killed her!
It seems that Max was in the bedroom shooting at somebody. Surely it wasn't his wife? Is this drug revealing the secrets of Max's brain, that he made up this whole scenario and is on this fake quest because he's trying to hide away the trauma of what he did? Or is it all fake, a drug-fueled nightmare? But now we begin to wake up and we get to meet Frankie the Bat Niagara, the man that's been leaving those baseball bat comics all over the shop.
Nothing like that ever happens in the real world.
I woke up in a bad dream. My head felt 2 sizes too small for my brain.
Max Payne, I envy your name.
And the killer was smiling.
Pleased to meet you. I'm Frankie the Bat Niagara.
Niagara, as in you cry a lot? He had a baseball bat and I was tied to a chair. Pissing him off was the smart thing to do.
Nothing wrong with a little laugh now and then. Take me, for example. I love to watch cartoons. Cartoon violence is a fascinating thing. Let's take a break. I need to take a leak and maybe grab a cold one at the bar. Don't worry. I'll be back to finish this off. And then, it's checkout time.
You play, you pay, you bastard. He swaggered out, and the door clanged shut behind him, locks clicking into place. Everyone makes mistakes. Mine hadn't been to crack jokes about the goon with the bat. He'd have cracked my skull regardless. It hadn't even been to trust a girl with a gun. I had blindly gone after the first bad guy on my hit list when I should have been aiming further up the ladder, at the head of the Punchinello family. I couldn't bring myself to be pissed at Mona. Guess I had a soft spot for her pretty face. But when somebody decides to play baseball with your head, you tend to get sore. They had dragged me back to the basement of Lupino's hotel. I was beaten, bruised, and blue. I felt like the chair I had broken to get free.
But with Frankie here leaving us and we quickly escape, we can grab the bat he left and we have to bat our way out of the hotel that we were in earlier without having any weapons. This is the one sequence where the melee weapon is actually used fairly well, in my opinion, because it forces you to almost bait enemies towards you to grab their guns. So quickly killing some guys, grabbing their guns, and then shooting our way out and collecting as many guns and ammo as we can from the goons, we'll eventually get back to the hotel that we explored in the beginning, with it now being taped off by the police.
The men in blue had come and gone. They had decorated the place with chalk outlines and tied it together with yellow tape. The cops who had stayed behind were dead. Frankie, his boys, and I had the place all for ourselves.
Crazy witch, you should have heard her. She was a real scream when the boys caught her trying to cap the Don. Oh, that's friggin' bad. To the trio? That's even worse than what Frankie's doing to that poor bastard downstairs. She's gonna take a long time to die.
The mobster muscle on the phone was talking about Mona. Punchinello's trio were nothing but bad news.
It seems Mona has been caught, and a news broadcast is reporting about the Ragnarok shooting. And they also believe that Max was killed in the shooting as well, but they can't find a body, and we are very clearly still walking about, which would explain why they can't find a body. As Frankie did take us away from the nightclub, and he also didn't kill us. So now we can go meet him in the bar, and he isn't getting a blowy from the woman because
the hotel bar was fast developing quite a history. True to his words, Frankie was there, having a beer.
Jesus Christ. How the hell did you get loose?
Got bored waiting. Thought, what the hell, we could just as well finish this here.
And of course now a massive shootout occurs, and after killing him, we leave the scene to start our hunt for Punchinello. It seems we are being tailed by a black Mercedes.
I'd seen the car before. That time it had heralded impressive explosions. Vladimir was back.
Bang. You're dead, Max Payne.
I might have laughed if I remembered how. What's this supposed to be? Cops and robbers? Look, you want something with me? Get in line.
Peace, man. Relax. You know you are a real news item. Armed and dangerous. I am going to make you an offer you can't refuse. I've always wanted to say that.
It's a bum rap. I've been framed.
That's a moot point. Whatever you did or did not do, I'm sure you had good reason for doing it. Want to hear me out?
I'm listening.
Punchinello messing with V is bad for business all around. But that's not all. There is this guy, Boris Time, used to pull jobs for me. He's the captain of the cargo ship Charon. Now the bastard turncoat has gone over to the other side, Punchinello's. The ship's loaded with high-res hardware, guns, my business. If Punchinello gets hold of that cargo, he's won and I have lost. And you'll have your work cut out for you. If you want to get to Punchinello, you'll need heavy-duty persuaders. I am just the man to get them for you. Change the ship back under my flag, maybe pop 2 in the traitor Dime's head while you're at it. You'll get enough guns to start the apocalypse. You in or out?
Let's get this show on the road. Vladimir was one of those old-time bad guys with honor and morals, which made him almost one of the good guys. None of us was a saint. The Brooklyn riverfront was a maze of rusty containers, sharp-boned cranes looming up from the snowstorm. On a night like this, you couldn't help but think of the dark army of dead men sleeping with the fishes, cement shoes in line. No Minotaur lurked in this labyrinth, but somewhere out there, on the clanking deck of his cargo freighter, the skipper of the Chiron was waiting, like the ferryman of the river Styx.
Vladimir here, the leader of the Russian mob, gives us a job to hit a weapon shipment that Punchinello has ordered in, and he wants him out of the game, and V is to be removed as it is bad for business. But also, Vladimir probably wants the guns and wants us to destroy it all because he can't use any of his guns, and the men that he has are probably fairly limited because Punchinello has pushed the Russian mob to its limits. But maybe if we go here, we'll be able to find some more information on Punchinello, but more importantly, we'll get some serious firepower to infiltrate and attack the Punchinello manor. And also, we help Vladimir, so I guess it's a win-win, I guess. So now we have to break into the dockyard and find the boat that has the weapons on it. So fighting our way through the shipping yard, we can find a container with a sniper rifle and a note with one word on it, Mayor, and a shit ton of cash as well. This is definitely a payment for a hitman job of dealing with the mayor. But hey, we got a new sniper rifle, so let's take that, and the sniper is one of the best guns in the game. It will one-shot almost any enemy you put in front of it, and it can easily clear rooms quickly and efficiently. It is definitely a weapon that you're going to want to learn to use. But now reaching the boat that we are after, and the boat is called Sharon, like the boatman of the Styx, and the captain that we need to kill, Boris Dime, is on board. So us boarding the ship clearly is going to indicate a big shift in the narrative. Vladimir and his actions allowing us to get on the boat and obtain the kit we need will change our journey significantly, reflective of the journey many of the dead would go on with Sharon on the Styx. And clearing out the boat, we can now receive a call from Angelo. Insert that call. Seems Max is determined to have a little chin wag with him. But heading down into the hull of the boat, we kill everyone, including the captain of the boat, and we are able to collect all of the ammo and a couple of new guns that we can get, such as the Colt Carbine, the best gun in the game. Now we can regroup with Vladimir and now set our sights on Punchinello.
Did you get everything you need?
Check.
I owe you. Anything you need.
This is my solo. When I'm through, Punchinello won't be anybody's problem anymore.
Clear as vodka. But anytime you get between a rock and a hard place, just whistle. This could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You really get a bang out of this big-time gangster act, don't you? Even with all this firepower, I figured I couldn't get to Punchinello at his manor. I could only hope that he wouldn't pass a chance to hear me beg, to see he's won. This is Max Payne. I want to cut a deal.
Payne, you're a dead man.
That's what everybody keeps telling me. I got your ship and her cargo. I want to meet. No pain, no gain. Capiche?
You know my restaurant?
Yeah, I know it.
One out.
Punchinello's restaurant had seen better days. Snow was falling like ashes from post-apocalyptic skies, but that was outside. Things would soon get hot in the Don's restaurant. I knew it was a long shot, Angelo Punchinello actually showing up, but there was no crime in hoping.
And now we end up at the most Sopranos-arse restaurant, the Casa di Angelo, and inside it, That ain't good. Someone left the pizza in the oven. But now we have to run away from the flames and eventually into the sewers to escape the building exploding. The trap was set to try deal with us without Punchinello actually coming to confront us. But despite his best efforts, Max here is quite the smart rat, and we aren't being killed that easily. And outside, Vlad heard all the commotion and gives us one last favor.
Vlad had seen my smoke signals. The Mercedes was revving to go, almost drowning out the Banshee well of the sirens.
You coming? We'll drop you off at the Punchinello Manor.
Sounds good to me.
When this is over, look me up. I could use a professional like you.
I'll keep that in mind.
And now Vlad is taking us over to the Punchinello Manor to finally deal with Punchinello.
The night groaned with cold. The garden lights flickered nervously. In their light, the falling snow was dead white before the darkness ate it up. I had heard the stories. The trio were mad dogs. They'd have hung the heads of their enemies over the manor gates if the capo had only let them. Punchinello wanted pain. He'd see the pain. The trick in my situation was that there was no trick, no matter what the movies tell you. No rules, no secret mantra, no roadmap. It wasn't about how smart or how good you were. It was chaos and luck, and anyone who thought different was a fool. All you could do was to hang on madly, as long and as hard as you could. Someone had graciously left the back door open for me and killed the guards. My money was on Mona. I knew the trio would be standing between me and Punchinello. I had read their rap sheets, thick as phone books. No one would be walking out of here alive. The numbing cold of the broken night had followed me in. Upstairs, the trio tangoed down the manor halls to the silent rhythm of their murderous hearts. The blood of their victims rust on their lips. Vince Mugnano, Pilot Providence, aka Big Brother, and Joe Deadpan Salem. The pistol was a frozen lump in my hand, piercing the skin, gnawing me to the bone.
And I really, really like the manor level. It is so much fun to play through, and I think this is the point where I realized that Max Payne's levels at this point have just flowed so well into each other. One of the biggest strengths that Max Payne has is there feels like there is never any downtime. There is either important story shit going on, or there is engaging and interesting gameplay, like there's a fun combat engagement, or there's shit to run around and like search through and just sort of fiddle with and fun notes to find. There's always something going on. And this is something that not all games do. A lot of games do struggle with pacing issues, where things go on for too long, where it feels like there's shit, where shit happens for the sake of shit happening. Combat sequences go on for too long. But Max Payne, every sequence feels just right. The pacing is impeccable. And that is mainly due to not only the gameplay side of it, which was obviously the main focus of the game at the time, but also what makes Max Payne so unique, and that is Sam Lake's writing. It is so interesting and so well done that it makes not only the story fun to engage with and actually dive into, but also makes the gameplay more engaging because you want to get to that next story beat. There's always a debate, what's more important in the game, gameplay or story? I will always say that gameplay is always more important. Gameplay, you need to have a good base level, but something that games are really funny at is that if you have a good enough story, you can have the most boring gameplay in the world and people will still engage with it because they want to experience the story. Will they replay it? Probably not. Do you replay Telltale's The Walking Dead as much as I do? Probably not. But most people will play these sorts of games that have really fucking good stories once or twice maybe to see the different options. But after that, they don't really replay them that often. But what elevates a game significantly more is if both the gameplay and story are good. You can have fairly simple gameplay, and if the story is that good, it makes the game feel more fun. I think the best example of this is a game like I always mention, Red Dead 2. Again, another Rockstar game. Rockstar are the masters of making a game that is fairly boring, but they make such a good story that they make you want to keep going. GTA 4, absolutely insane story. One of my favorite GTA stories. But most of the game is just driving from A to B, picking up characters and doing shit, and that's it. There's like not really a lot of shit going on. I'd say like maybe 40% of that game, maybe 30% is you just driving and talking to characters. Is it engaging? No, but the story is interesting. That's the fun part. And that's what Max Payne here mastered. And I think this is what Sam Lake learned from Max Payne, is that the game can be as simple as hell. You can have such simple gameplay that isn't that deep, but if the writing is good enough, if it's interesting enough, if it wants you to keep going to uncover more of the mysteries and more of the narrative and figure out what the fuck is going on, it will keep you engaged. This is something that he fully realized in Alan Wake, in my opinion. Alan Wake 1 and 2, they do not have that interesting of gameplay. They're fairly simple survival horror games, but the writing is so good that it keeps you engaged and you want to keep playing. Also, Silent Hill 2, it's not that insane gameplay wise, but like the story is fucking goated, so you just want to keep going. But this is what I really want to outline. Max Payne is a masterclass in video game pacing. With Sam Lake's writing, it pulls you in, hooks you, and you want to keep going. But Petri and the other developers who worked on more of the gameplay side, they made the game so fun to play that even if you don't give a fuck about the story in the beginning, you enjoy the gameplay, so you keep going. Both sides of the spectrum will engage with the game and want to keep progressing. And if you like both, it makes for one of the most enjoyable game experiences from start to finish. Like, damn, again, this is a game from 2001. This game is older than me, and it still is better than some games now who have 10 times the budget. But let's go back to the inn now. Inside, we can find a dead body with a note with "soon" written on it, pinned to it like a stake in a vampire's heart, with Max believing that it was from Mona before she ran into the trio and most likely got captured. Who are the trio? Well, fighting our way up from the basement, we enter the kitchen and can see a few of them, and they run away from us, obviously fortifying some area of the house. But on the table, we can find some of Lisa's cards, showing that she herself was into a bit of witchcraft. Well, tarot cards to be exact.
The word on Lisa Puccinello was that she was a bit of a witch. The tarot cards on the kitchen table fit the picture. They weren't my kind of cards, but I was willing to take a crack at the hand Mrs. Puccinello had dealt. The first card was the tower. Maybe that was supposed to be the manor. It got easy after that. The devil was the master of the house, and death was me, coming for him.
With the tower, death, and the devil cards being on side, with Max explaining what they mean. The tower, the house they are in, death, that's Max, and death is coming for the devil, Angelo. But is that truly what this means? Well, Persona Brain, here we go, because tarot cards are extremely convoluted. They don't mean what you think they mean. Contrary to what Max says and its name, the tower, first of all, basically represents a sudden or disruptive change and the collapse of something that is built on weak foundations. So we can see that as Max fighting his war against whoever makes and sells the Valkyrie drug and got his wife killed. But also the tower moment in life may occur at a moment where someone's ego is dealt a significant blow, or they are forced to release something materialistic, something earthly, such as Max being forced to let go of his wife and child. He is forced out of his life as a father and into this life. He is forced into a life where he believes that he failed them. And despite the tower often being associated with more destructive forces, the chaos that is created by it will guide an individual to a new calm, freeing them of someone or something, hopefully to a better future. And maybe in Max's case, that might mean that once he reaches the end of his journey, he will be reborn a new man. He will achieve a new level and feel content with life at that point. What about the Death Arcana? Contrary to popular belief and to what Max says and its name, it's not actually about death physically. It's about a deep transformation, an ending, if you will. It signifies a big chapter in life ending, and here it represents that we are fast approaching the end, or a big revelation will occur that completely changes our perspective, and that will begin a new chapter. Kind of like in the game there, where we might actually enter chapter 3 at this point. And finally, the devil one is the most interesting. It symbolizes a trapped being, the shadow self. You know the Persona thing of I am thou, thou art thy, and the funny shadow self in Persona 4, and they hug it and it like goes into them. Love that game. But these traps in life can be addiction, materialism, or an unhealthy attachment, a bondage that is self-imposed on yourself. You engage with it and it is a toxin on your life. In Persona 4, it was the shadow selves, those doubts and those almost self-hatred things that they wanted to hide that like pinned them down. Here, that toxin is Max's quest for vengeance. He is obsessed. His life is completely about his quest for vengeance since his wife died. He has been undercover for 3 years at this point, and these past 3 days he's been waging a massive war against those who killed or had a part in his wife's death. So what does it all mean? Well, due to what Max had lost, we are about to enter a new chapter, a point which will transform him and change his quest, but he will realize that he may have become too obsessed with this quest, that he himself has become bound and trapped by his quest, and it has changed him permanently. Anyway, now we fight our way through the manor, killing the trio, the 3 bodyguards of Punchinello, and one of them has the M79 grenade launcher that is going to do some serious damage to the carpet. But in the bedroom we can find a dead body, either being Mona or Lisa. They are twins, so Max can't tell the difference between the two, but it does make Max reminisce about what he lost. And before he can get too deep into thought and think about his wife, the phone rings.
Talk to me.
Alfred Woden, you've got company. An armed helicopter just landed on the manor grounds. You must hurry.
The more the merrier.
Alfred Woden has given us a call again, and he seems to know that there is a helicopter coming to kill us, probably filled with police. I wonder how he knows that. But now we can confront Punchinello himself.
Outside my door. Hurry. It's coming for me. You gotta hurry. Please.
I could hear Punchinello on the phone begging for help. He should have been saying his goodbyes. Punchinello was a pushover. The moment I stepped into the room, he folded like a deuce before a royal flush.
No, wait. I was just doing what I was told. I couldn't refuse. She's someone high up. Government, maybe. I don't know.
He was trying to buy more sand for his hourglass. I wasn't selling any.
Funny thing is, Punchinello is, I think, the Italian word for what type of puppet is, commonly used in the Punch and Judy shows that I remember watching when I was a wee little lad. Good shows, you should watch them. They still do them in London. If you're ever in London, I know it's a shithole, but you can go and find some nice places where they still do Punch and Judy shows. But it tells us that Punchinello here was completely a puppet for whoever was above him. And now with this Secret Service, US government men in suits storming in, we have to fight them off, but Punchinello does die during it. But before he dies, he does let us know that a woman high up was the one ordering him around. The one that was controlling the V trade seems to be linked to this woman that we keep hearing about, this hag, this witch, this same person. However, despite our best efforts of trying to outgun the Secret Service, we will quickly be captured instead.
I could tell when I was outgunned. It was time to take another beating. The mystery witch was a real barracuda. Trouble on dagger heels, a smoking assault rifle in her hand, and an army of killer suits behind her.
How sweet. I get to kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Sooner or later, it was going to catch up with you.
Mr. Payne, it's time to show you the benefits of my brew. Be a good boy now.
You'd find that Lady Luck was really a hooker. You were fresh out of cash.
Gentlemen, we're done here. Take me to Cold Steel.
She had just given me an OD of Valkyr. I could feel green fire eating my brains. They turned to steam. They did a fade on me. I'd never had a chance. The witch had got me just as sure as if she put a gun to my head and pulled the trigger. The shadows rushed me, bruised mugshot faces hungry for revenge. They knew my weak spots and closed in for the kill. The floor turned into a vortex of green blood. I fell.
And well, we meet the very woman that we have been after this entire time. That witch, that hag, whoever this woman is. But before we can do anything, we are drugged out of our mind, and now Max here has another fun trip with the drugs, seeing his wife in his room again and finding a letter that was familiar.
Something disturbingly familiar about the letter before me. The handwriting was all pretty curves.
You're in a graphic novel.
The truth split my skull open, a glaring green light washing the lies away. All of my past was just fragmented still shots, words hanging in the air like balloons. I was in a graphic novel. Funny as hell. It was the most horrible thing I could think of.
Hey, we break in the fourth wall again with this one. It's another meta-narrative. All about it being a graphic novel in a video game, and it's not all real. But the next time we return to this room, we can also hear someone talking on the phone about some gobbledygook, but the second time we pick it up, he tells us to not lose it as it is the effects of the drug and that we need to snap out of this drug-filled dream that we are in. And returning to Max's house, the most interesting thing that we find here has to do with his wife, and then seeing ourselves having shot her, and then shooting ourselves. What the fuck is going on? It's very clear from this scene that it's not telling us that Max himself killed his wife, but that he almost blames himself for her death. He sees himself as responsible in some way, that he could have done something to protect her in some way. He failed as the man he is. He couldn't stop the gunman before he killed her. But during this, Max has a memory that comes forth of great importance, a memory about his wife telling him something.
Max, something happened at the office today. A strange memo. Something about Vikings.
Honey, I gotta run. You can tell me all about it this evening.
Have a nice day, darling.
The bullet holes were rubies on her chest, blood glowing on her ivory skin. She was so beautiful. The killer was smiling.
The flesh of fallen angels.
She was about to tell him about the Valkyr drug case, a very important clue about it, but he quickly had to make his way off to work, which led to her death as he was not there to protect her and didn't actually listen to what she had to say. But with Max finally waking up, he now makes his way to the cold steel foundry and sneaks his way in to try get the drop on the woman who just drugged him. And inside we find a heavily fortified and booby-trapped building with a private militia inside, and the question you might have is what the hell are they guarding in a steel mill? And clearing out as many guards as possible and moving through this fiery inferno that is the steel foundry, we eventually reach an elevator which will take us down to the center of all this shit, a secret government facility focused on Project Valhalla.
You can't do this. My men are still inside.
Do you have any idea why this is called Operation Deadeyes?
I think he's dead already.
Let's do it.
Oh, they seem friendly, don't they? But now we have infiltrated a lab entirely focused on the production of Valkyr, and whoever these suits are, they are now trying to destroy the whole facility to cover the tracks, most likely that this woman left from her work on this case. At this point, we will quickly realize that Valkyr is no longer a basic street drug. This is some rich corporation, government level type corruption shit. But with the facility about to self-destruct, we need to make our way out and maybe find some clues along the way that will fill in some of the details that we are missing at this point. Honestly, I really like this level, and I love being blown up about 4 times in a row by an enemy shooting an explosive barrel behind me. But within the facility, we'll be able to find a terminal which has details on Project Valhalla, and details that indeed it was a US Army project to create a substance to enhance the stamina and morale of troops, but was cancelled due to unsatisfactory results. But despite this, someone kept the project alive and kept making the drug, probably the witch. And by the way, this is a real thing. In World War II, the Germans used meth so that they would stay awake during World War II and they wouldn't have to go to sleep. They've used drugs in the past, and I bet you a lot of current military are high as a kite on things. But what actually happened? What happened to the project, and why is it trying to be covered up now? Well, not only do we see the effects of the drug in the world, but there was apparently a data leak which threw the whole illegal project into danger of being uncovered and exposed to the US government. So what they did to cover it up was double the dose on some of their subjects and then drop them at Max's old place of living, his house in New Jersey, telling us that the leak was Max's wife. And those junkies, of course, broke in, killed Max's wife and child, and then Max came in and killed them. They were from this facility. They were a part of this illegal project. So now we have definitive proof of who killed our wife and child, the person helming this project. It wasn't the government anymore, but that woman Punchinello mentioned, the witch. But this place really is about to blow up, so we really need to make a run for the exit now to not die in the fiery inferno.
Piece together a jigsaw, and the final picture is you finishing that same puzzle. A mad, green-eyed killer standing behind you. An urban legend come true. The Project Valhalla test subjects had been the mad junkies who had murdered my loved ones. The rest was simple body count math. It all pointed to her. Ms. Valkyr. The factory went up in a fiery inferno behind me. All my leads were dead. turned to smoke and dust. I had lost my way. I hadn't slept in a million years. I felt thin as death. I've been living on an endless supply of week-old donuts. They were fuel for this crazy furnace inside my head. I couldn't remember when I had last seen the sun. I was on a permanent graveyard shift. When the darkness fell, New York City became something else, any old Sinatra song notwithstanding. Bad things happened in the night, on the streets of that other city, Noir York City. I was in an all-night diner, downing cup after cup of coffee that tasted like engine oil, when a new message from BB got me back on the killer track.
What the hell happened at Roscoe Street? Maxie, I'm going out on a limb here. We need to talk this through, come up with a plan. 2:30 a.m., the Choir Communications Garage.
The more I thought about Alex's murder and the frame-up, the more it felt like an inside job. I should have seen it coming. BB had sold me out, and now he wanted to finish what he'd started. The garage was dead. BB showed up in his tailor-made suit, gold watch, and cufflinks to match, all way beyond a cop's pay.
Maxie.
Oozing suave charm, he was guilty as hell. What the hell does BB stand for anyway? Backstabbing bastard?
Come on, don't be like that. Have a cigar.
I don't smoke.
Maxie, you have no idea how big this is. It's huge. You have no idea.
I think I do. You're a bribe-taking bent cop who sold out his partner. Those mobsters in the subway were a dead giveaway. Hard to miss. Bet it was exactly like this with Alex. Up close and personal.
You can't win this one, Max.
No, but I can make damn sure none of you do either. BB turned out to be another cardboard cutout bad guy.
Well, BB, the cop whom we were meant to meet all the way back in the beginning, has made it apparent he sold us out, taking money from whoever is pulling the strings, because he has quite a nice watch that is above a cop's pay grade. If I had to guess, he is indulged in the more luxurious stuff in life. And if you didn't realize, he is the guy who also killed Boulder in the beginning of the game and framed us for it. He is trying to tie up some loose ends and also have a little bit of fun while doing it. It's very clear BB is meant to be a mirror to Loki. He is the one that did technically start the Ragnarok because he was the one that set things in place, and he was kind of the one that pulled the trigger, manipulating people to lead to Boulder's death. But we aren't ones for dying so easily, so of course in the parking garage we blast our way out, eventually killing BB, and of course somehow we get a phone call from Alfred again. Somehow he always knows where we are.
Yeah.
Max Payne?
Whatever does it for you.
This is Alfred Woden. I can give you the name of your enemy. Come to the Asgard building presently. We are expecting you.
And Alfred Woden invites us to the Asgard building, the home of the gods. If it's not obvious at this point, Alfred Woden is Odin, the leader of the Inner Circle, a secret government group who were there at the early stages of Project Valhalla. But they were the ones that dropped it, seeing its results as not good enough, that they weren't interested in keeping it going. Also, Alfred has one eye, like Odin. But basically at this point, Woden here gives us the entire rundown on the project. Insert that. Nicole Horn is the main figure behind the entire Valhalla project, and she has been the one still running it and kind of financially backing it after it was shut down. She is the witch that we have been hunting for, and she is the head of the Aesir Corporation, the group of Norse gods. Bit on the nose that, innit? And Woden here wants us to take her out, and in exchange he will ensure that all the charges against us will be dropped. And right on cue, and we need to make a break for it, escaping the slaughter, and to help us we also get access to the Jackhammer, a semi-auto shotgun. It's decent but feels wildly inconsistent, and I found myself gravitating more towards the Colt Carbine a hell of a lot more. Now the most interesting thing you might be asking is, if Woden is meant to be Odin, the most powerful god there is, what does that make Nicole Horn? Well, there is a couple interpretations of her character. She, of course, could be someone like Surtur, who would bring the end of Asgard and everything. But what I think is more important to understand about Norse myth is that it's all set in stone. If you remember, a big narrative point in God of War Ragnarok, I hate to keep bringing attention to this game, but it's kind of the easiest way for me to explain it and display it to you. God of War Ragnarok had a massive plot point about things being set in fate. Things were destined to happen and you couldn't change them. And this is a big thing the Norse mythology has, is that everything is destined to happen. Ragnarok cannot be stopped. The death of these gods cannot be stopped. The people they die by is set in stone. Fate cannot be changed. So if we were to link her to something specific, we wouldn't link her really to a central character, because there isn't really a character like that. Odin, yeah, is technically the strongest in Norse mythology. So what is more powerful than Odin? Well, it's fate itself. Odin cannot escape Ragnarok no matter what he does. He will always die in it. So if Nicole Horn is anything, she is fate itself. She is the outcome of the actions of the gods. And I think that works really well here with Alfred and all the other gods that were part of the inner circle had influence in the Valhalla project. They let it go, but they couldn't stop it because it was already started at that point. Fate had already decided where it was going to go, and Nicole Horn is fate herself. She is so set on power and money and everything else that she won't let others stop her, and she did everything in her power to ensure that fate kept to the story. Now, she could also be linked to a specific item, be it the Galahorn. No, not the OP Destiny weapon. The horn which Heimdall would sound to forewarn the coming of Ragnarok. Her voice was the very first one we heard on the phones, and she's the one that started it all, almost like she's the one that unleashed it upon the world. She herself didn't create it, but she called it forth. She sent them crazed lunatics into our house. She begun Ragnarok, those 3 days. She was the one that lit the match. Honestly, it's really fucking good writing, and like, I'm probably getting it wrong because I'm not super familiar with Norse mythology. Most of my knowledge of it comes from, of course, the God of War games and some other external reading that I've done myself. But I don't know, man, I think this Sam Lake guy should keep making games after this. I don't know, he seems pretty good with it. It's all layered, it's like an onion. But on the security cameras, we can also see that Woden survived the attack, orchestrating it himself to kill the others in his group and maybe get away from Nicole Horn himself, not wanting to have to deal with her anymore. But we can't really get to him as we need to escape, and this entire section is really good. The militia guys are a step above the mobsters that we've been facing up to this point. They wait in specific places to ambush you, they use bait tactics to kill you, like with this elevator opening, it encourages you to go in because your gamer brain goes, ooh, lift, let's use it, and then you run into it, and then they throw 2 hand grenades at you, and then you just die. But also, they are smarter. They will try to ambush you and try overwhelm you, and you really have to pace yourself and use the environment to the best of your ability to actually survive this entire level. Now, later on, we can also find that Nicole had a tight leash around the inner circle and was blackmailing them to be silent. These were those rich folk who were being filmed by Candy back at the hotel. Yeah, how fun. And now that blackmail was being used by Nicole to keep them in line. So now Max would take these tapes to use this against Alfred if he doesn't follow up on his promise to help him drop the charges. But on another desk, we can find a blueprint for the Aesir building detailing its security measures and the location of Nicole's office, giving Max a target for his vengeance. And you might question why the fuck this is here. Well, maybe they intended for Max to actually see this, or maybe the Inner Circle were planning to hit the Aesir building until they realized that she had blackmail on them. But on a TV, we can of course see a report on the Aesir's stock price being so high and so successful that there is worries that it could become a bigger monopoly than Microsoft. Yeah, it's smart not writing it, but you can still hear the woman say Microsoft. But it does detail that the Aesir Corporation is a lot bigger than a small pharmaceutical drug company. They have so much money that they can control the world in some way. They are on the level of a Microsoft, of an Amazon. They are that wealthy. Now, eventually reaching a large file room, we can also learn that the Inner Circle has had its hand in many different things and pulling the strings on them for decades now, displaying that they are also extremely powerful. And the fact the Aesir Corporation and Nicole Horn is above them should display to us truly how powerful and influential she truly is. But anyway, with us escaping the Asgard building, Max makes his way to his final target.
Mine wasn't the most original approach to the problem. It wasn't as if it hadn't all been done before. An eye for an eye, the first principle of revenge. old as dirt, still going strong. The cardinal rule in going after someone with an intention to kill was not to make it personal, which it almost always ended up being anyway. It did with me. I took my time, cruising around the city in the snow. There was no hurry. I knew what I had to do now. I took my time, thinking about it, building up the rage. When I was ready, I parked the stolen wheels at the front entrance of the Acer Corporation headquarters. Got out, got in, got cracking. I had a bullet with Nicole Horn's name on it. I had 10,000 bullets with the Hag's name on them. She had ultra-high-tech security systems, enough mercenaries and weaponry to start World War III. There was no fear. New York disappeared behind a veil of snow. I had crossed the threshold. This was her domain, sleek and sexy and soulless, all glass and steel. A place of color-coded security keycards, metal detectors, and surveillance systems.
And now we enter the Acer building.
Colder than a walk-in fridge. Cold as a gun.
And don't know why, it kind of reminded me of the Matrix scene for some reason when they go through like the metal detector. But it's a really good extended infiltration sequence of us killing so many people, and they throw absolutely everything at you. Guys with carbines, shotguns, nade launchers. I see him now. And even Mona gets thrown in front of her.
Mona, looking good.
Max, we gotta stop meeting like this.
It will be a cold day in hell before I let a narc cop stop me. Miss Sax, do your job.
Relax, Max. You're a nice guy. I don't kill nice guys.
You're not bad yourself.
It was different when Horn wanted Punchinello dead. To cut her ties to the Mafia, he deserved to die.
The same goes with her. She's the bad guy here. Her sister was whispering to her in my favor. I knew the appetites of ghosts intimately. They hungered for revenge.
No!
A gunshot boomed and she fell down in slow motion. She was a nice girl, not really a stone-cold killer. And now she was stone-cold dead. Like religious fanatics or loyal samurai, Horn's private army was coming at me.
Oh no, she died, but her body disappeared when we called the lift back. So is she dead or was she taken away? Who knows? I could not guess. But anyway, going up the lift, we dodge some mines or shoot them out and reach the lift control point, allowing us to go down into the lower levels, which allows us to destroy the AI system, I think. I don't really know what this thing is. It's like a computer thing, but that was locking us out of the higher levels, and this gives us access to the security level. And now within the security level, Max reaches a computer that had all the evil secrets on it, and he shoots the monitor to destroy it. That is not how computers work. Don't matter though, this unlocks the upper level and gives us access to a new lift that will take us up to the penthouse.
Valkyr had been meant to be a white-winged maiden that would lift you to a warrior's heaven, but it turned out to be a one-way demon ride to hell. The devil was in the drug. I knew. I had met him. And now I was gonna kill her. The queen of the underworld who had tried to lift herself a bit closer to heaven with her drug money. No begging, no bribes. She knew better. Honor among killers. We who were about to die. Both of us knew how this would end. In pain and suffering.
All this because your wife stuck her nose into things that were none of her business.
The cops were coming to take me away. The sirens were like a bad conscience I couldn't shake.
It's ridiculous you've made it this far. You won't be alive when they get here.
Well, if you haven't figured it out just quite yet, the game spells it out to us at this point. Max's wife found something on the Valhalla project that she could leak to the world. The thing that she was mentioning to Max as he was going to work. And before she could do anything with that information, Dawn had ordered her to be assassinated, and using a couple of drugged out crazies, they could clear themselves of any wrongdoing. It could be easily framed as a robbery gone wrong. But Max was a snag in that plan. He was either meant to die at his home in New Jersey, or he was never meant to be able to figure this case out. But he was someone that always had a thorn in his side, and he knew something was wrong with what happened. And now Thorn will throw everything at us that she has, including a helicopter, to try stop us. And the helicopter, by the way, has a minigun on it. But with us reaching the roof, we do corner Horn, but she has a helicopter and locks the door behind us. So we need to find a way to stop her from flying away and killing us. So how do we do that? Well, using the very tower that she built up to try and make her closer to the gods, to be above everyone else and be godlike, we shoot out the antenna tower and use it to slam down into her helicopter and throw her down back to the earth in a fiery inferno, almost using a massive sword to destroy the Aesir themselves. Kind of like it's referencing that Max might be Surtur.
They were all dead. The final gunshot was an exclamation mark to everything that had led to this point. I released my finger from the trigger. And then it was all over. The storm seemed to lose its frenzy. The ragged clouds gave way to the stars above.
Max Payne, this is Deputy Chief Jim Bravura from the NYPD. We've got the building surrounded. Throw down your weapons and lie down with your hands behind your head.
A bit closer to heaven. The cops' voices were distant and muted.
Freeze! NYPD! Hold it right there!
My ghosts released me from their haunting. Down below, New York City glittered like diamonds on black velvet.
You gave us one hell of a ride. Take him down to Central Booking.
You heard the man.
Woden was there in the crowd, standing by the sidelines. It wouldn't be over till the man with the patch would say so. He'd say the right words. I knew he would. He'd better. Woden grinned smugly. It was the grin of a winner. That made two of us.
Max Payne is a really simple story. Like, it is extremely simple. A guy loses his wife and kid, goes on a revenge mission, shoots a bunch of people, and gets to the top and tops off the leader of the whole issue that caused it. That's basically the game summed up in a nutshell. But the most interesting part about Max Payne is that the longer it goes on, the more you get into the game and the more story you start to uncover, it stops feeling like a very generic revenge narrative. Because yes, you are hunting people throughout the entire game, from Jack Lapino, Gognitti, Punchinello, Nicole Horn, so on and so forth, but it never really feels like you get closer to anything once you kill those people. They don't really tell you anything, you just keep opening up new doors and the rabbit hole keeps going further and further down. At the start of the game, go from random thugs and drug dealers to the head of the mob, to then you reach something called Valkyr, and then you go down, continuing with the mob, eventually getting into government facilities and government conspiracies and secret societies, eventually reaching the Aesir Corporation, a Microsoft-sized corporation, and at a certain point you realize that the story is significantly bigger than Max himself. He's not in control of any of it. He is just continually moving forward and just fighting constantly. And I think that's why all the Norse links and callbacks and references work so well in Max Payne, and why it is such an interesting writing style. Ragnarok, the event, isn't about someone stepping up to stop it. It's not an event that is stopped. It's something that just happens. It's fate itself. And everyone within Ragnarok has a part to play, and Max feels just like that. He isn't really stopping the Valkyr drug or the Aesir Corporation. Nicole Horn, at the end of the day, is probably just a puppet like Punchinello that will be replaced by someone else, and spoiler alert, there's a second game. He never actually stops the issues that are there. He just kills Nicole Horn, who, yes, was the one responsible for killing his wife, but he doesn't actually change the world in any way. He's just there and just continuing his fight, going through what is Ragnarok. Throughout the entire game, it keeps dragging you back to his wife and kid. That's the reason he's doing this throughout the entire thing. And the game leans into that with the dreams, the hallucinations, and all the weird callbacks he makes to his wife. The game makes it abundantly apparent that Max doesn't feel anger first when thinking about the death of his wife and child. The main thing he feels is guilt. He genuinely thinks that he should have been there to save them. He thinks that he is at fault for not saving them. And at one point, he literally sees himself as the one who did it. The face of the killer that kills his wife has his face. And this difference, this almost juxtaposition in what is actually happening in the game with the Ragnarok references and it all being fate and Max's extremely personal mission, it makes it feel very different because it's not about justice. Max isn't about justice. He can't bring these people in because he knows how much corruption and how deep this goes, and he just has to let his anger guide him. He has to just push through and keep fighting. And I think that's really what the game is about. It's just about someone who can't deal with the loss of his wife and kid. He can't accept what happened and he can't deal with it. He never actually sits there and grieves his wife and child. For 3 years he went undercover with the DEA because he didn't want to confront it. By the end he does, but in the most, let's say, violent way possible. But the most interesting thing about Max Payne is how well its story is laid out in its simplicity but also complexity. I think something that many people who don't actually dive into Max Payne's story enough really give it credit for is how complex its story is. I could go on for hours detailing these little narrative quirks and links to Norse and what they could mean and how they make the game more full in terms of its narrative and make more sense, but I would be here for like 10 hours. This is something that Sam Lake does extremely well within his writing. Even here in his first proper game that he wrote, you see his style. The way that all the events in the game can link to Norse myth and their meanings and messages within that, all the weird TV stuff, the meta-narrative that is going on throughout the game, the tone of the game, that noir, gritty style, and the lot of the symbolism Sam Lake uses masterfully, and it's all there. All of the quirks that he has within his newer games that he's made, all can be found within Max Payne. You can very clearly see how Max Payne leads into something like Alan Wake or into Control, not only from a gameplay standpoint with something like Control and its really satisfying shooting, but also a lot of the more interesting narrative writing style that he uses within the games like Alan Wake 2, Quantum Break, and Control, these more larger-than-life narratives that just are fucky and mess with you, and you really have to think and let go of reality and step back from it to truly understand it. It's all the same ideas, but he just made them later on again. And I think this is a key point I want to make about Max Payne. Yes, it isn't truly, in my opinion, Sam Lake's game. There is a lot of other creatives behind this game, but I think what makes Max Payne so special is Sam Lake's writing. If Max Payne had a very generic story that wasn't as layered as it is, I don't think the game would stand out anywhere near as much as it does. The gameplay is fairly simple, for argument's sake, but the writing is so unique that even at the time and now, no games really even can be compared to it in how it presents its story. And for Remedy, this game was basically the starting point. Yes, they obviously had games before this, but this was the game where their style was truly found. This was the first one. The story, atmosphere, this, and you can tell straight away this is a true Remedy game. The way the story is, the gameplay, the atmosphere, it has something special about it that makes it feel unique when you play it. For me, this is why Max Payne works. You can clearly see creative vision and a creative mind behind the game that not only has something to say, but also wants to do it in a unique way. They want to push the medium of games forward and really push the boundaries. And Max Payne does that, and in future games Sam Lake would do that again and again with how he would present and write his game, and that's why Max Payne works. It's not that the game is just fun, it's the feeling it gives you, that constant cold feeling that everything is covered in snow and the city feels dead. You're playing someone who isn't really a hero, but you can see him as one. He's just someone that's lost everything and he's just fighting a fight because that's all he knows to do. And real life isn't clean like that. You don't always get closure. Max didn't get closure for the death of his wife and child. You don't always get a proper satisfying ending. Sometimes something just happens and that's it. It can be sudden, instant. One action can lead to a massive change. And I think that's the part that sticks with me the most, because it's easy for me to sit here and go, yeah, Max never gets past it. But honestly, I don't think most people do get past many things in life. Death specifically, like not properly. Grief is a weird thing. You don't just wake up one day and go, I'm fine now. You just carry it. And one day the weight just feels lesser. It feels like you're not as burdened by that weight anymore. You just keep going and you just carry on. You do what you have to do, but it's still always there. You never forget that pain or the void that is created when someone is lost. But that pain or void shouldn't stop you. You moving forward isn't leaving someone behind. Every memory you have, you take with you, and you carry those you care about with you into the future. Everything in life you should learn something from, be it from happiness, from pain, from sadness, or that weird emotion of nothingness. It's all as meaningful as you make it. So learn from everything and keep moving forward. Hello lads and lasses, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please like, comment and subscribe. And of course, thank you to all channel members including Chelsea Tyler, Gator, Darren76, It's Bert, Carter Phillips, Corrego, Zaralino, Kento, Ermin the Turk, Ashley, Jen Caliber, Jamie Barrett, Juniper LP, Damlarat, Straight Gin, Synapse, Lolink12, Mr. Disappear, Shaku, Yagito, Daft Punk 58, Yavian Hammond, Corazonta, Tyler Reeves, Saint CL, Camden Shepherd, Zartane FF14, Renegade, Sailor Peach, Not Saber, Seren Soji, Vracula, and Honey Bumble. Thank you everyone for your support, and there is getting to be quite a lot of you now, isn't there? I don't actually have a lot to say. I am feeling better now. My voice was still a bit funny when recording this, and actually making it, which does explain kind of the almost deadness in my voice. Also, it probably explains the almost more simple scripting. I found this video very hard to make because I just haven't been feeling great. I do feel better now though, so that's always good to know, even though I know my voice still sounds dead. Next video, kind of a coin flip. I'm debating either doing Alien Isolation or doing finally the Dark Souls video. I don't really know which one I want to do yet. I'm leaning more towards the Dark Souls video because I don't know how long I want to take on that video, and I'm planning on thinking that for like the 2-year channel anniversary, which is in June, I think, June 17th, which means I've been doing YouTube now for almost 2 years, which is, fuck me, that's crazy, isn't it? But yeah, I do plan on doing Alien Isolation though, because I do want to play through the game again. Obviously this is going to be a start of, I guess, an extended series where I'm going to go through all of the Remedy universe games, or mainly Sam Lake's games, so Max Payne 2. Don't know if I'll do Max Payne 3, even though I do want to play it. Quantum Break, Control, both the Alan Wake game, or all 3 of the Alan Wake games actually, sorry. I do plan on doing all of them because I just really enjoy them, but they'll be sort of scattered because of course I don't want to just do them all in a row. Also Dishonored 2, I will do that. I don't know if I'll do it after Alien Isolation, but I do want to play it. Like, I'm giddy and want to play it, but I just don't like making the videos back to back because I get bored of the franchise. It's why I still haven't done like Resident Evil 2 and all that, because I know I'll get bored of it. But other than that, yeah, I ain't got much else to say. I've been pretty good. Any suggestions for games, leave them in the comments or join the Discord. Shout out to the Discord. I do plan on using the Discord a bit more for recording purposes. So I'd like to do a Left 4 Dead video as well, and I know I keep mentioning it. Left 4 Dead mainly like a versus, like full campaign playthrough where I talk about the game's story and stuff, but of course it'll be interspliced with gameplay from the versus mode, which I think would be good fun to get like all of you involved, and maybe even other creators if they want to play. But I kind of want to challenge myself with a new video. But yeah. Other than that, that's all I've got to say. So that's entirely enough waffling from me. See you around. Crocodile.